Thanks very much for having me. As Paul mentioned, we're a copper gold explorer. We have a portfolio of 6 projects, 3 in Indonesia, 3 in Australia. 4 of our projects are copper and gold and 2 are gold-only projects. I'm just going to quickly run through today 2 of our copper and gold projects, 2 of our most exciting ones. And I won't really touch on the other 4. Haven't really got enough time to do that. Quite an advanced portfolio of projects. More than $50 million has been spent on exploration and studies today. More than 50,000 metres of drilling has been done. So we know with great certainty what we're looking at across our portfolio. Very experienced board and management team in Far East Gold. Between our board and management, we've done a lot of work in Indonesia and Australia in the resource sector. And between us, we've raised more than $2 billion for other mining projects and taken projects into operation in Indonesia and Australia. Our focus isn't primarily on exploration with the potential to transition to development and operation. We listed on the ASX last year and raised just under $12 million. We then did a placement in SPP at the end of last year and raised another 6.5. And a week or so ago, we just finished an institutional wholesale placement and raised a further $6.9 million. All our projects are located in really impressive world-class tier 1 gold producing and copper producing regions. So we're actually well located to take advantage of these projects. Next slide, please. It's a bit of a snapshot of the board. Paul Walker's my name. I'm one of the co-founders of the company, chairman of the board. Shane Monero, CEO, is a co-founder. He's had the last 15 years up in Indonesia running most of the operating support for major gold projects throughout the region. Justin Werner, who's also one of my co-founders, is a non-exec director of Far East Gold. He's also the managing director of Nickel Industries, stock code NIC. Nickel Industries has a market cap of about $2.5 billion. It primarily focuses on producing nickel and smelting nickel in Indonesia. So he has a great success in taking advantage of the nickel opportunities in Indonesia. He's also a non-exec director of Alpha A4N, which is a market cap circa $1 billion. He was one of the co-founders of that company as well. Alpha A4N is one of the vendors of one of our projects. Mark Denneman, our CFO, he's a former director at KPMG, a chartered accountant. And I have 2 very experienced geologists on the board, Dr. Chris Atkinson and Michael Thurnbeck, both with more than 30 years experience in the Southeast Asia region, particularly Michael Thurnbeck, who spent the last 20 years working on one of our major projects, Woyla. Next slide, please. I want to talk about the Eurasian Resources Group very quickly. We just finished a $6.9 million placement last week, and it was cornerstoned by a strategic investment by the Eurasian Resources Group, which for us is quite a remarkable achievement outcome for our business and gives us a really good head start into transitioning our projects from where they are today and where we see them they could be in a few years' time. ERG, it's a privately held diversified natural resources company. They're based in Luxembourg. Their main shareholder, 40% stake, is held by the government of Kazakhstan. They have operations in over 16 countries. They have a workforce of, depending where you read it, if you read their 2021 ESG report, 67,000. If you read the webpage, it's 75,000. So certainly circa 70,000 staff. Their last reported EBITDA was $8.5 billion with an underlying, revenue was $8.5 billion and an underlying EBITDA of $4.21 billion in 2021. They're a very experienced operator of different commodities. They are the top 3 producers of cobalt in the world. They produce 20,000 tons of copper annually. Just to put in context and talking the scale of ERG, even though they may be privately owned, being 40% backed by the Kazakhstan government, they're effectively a sovereign wealth fund. And their scale puts them more than 2 to 3 times the size of Newcrest. So it's very important for us that ERG has come into our business at a group level. It gives us access to their financial strength, but also their operational experience. They've made available to us their geo team. They have an annual exploration budget of $70 million. So they've basically said, here's all of our resources for you to help with these projects that we'd like to see you take forward. Part of the terms of their investment is they put in $4 million into Far East Gold, and we granted them a right of first refusal on one of our projects, the Tinggalic copper gold project. They liked that a lot. They said if we ever wanted to sell the Tinggalic copper gold project, they'd like the chance to match or better any offer we had to sell an interest in that project. So we said, yes, that's fine. You can have that provided you maintain 8 million shares in Far East Gold. And then you have 30 days to match or better the offer. And if you don't match or better the offer, we can continue with the sale. And we have no intention of selling Tinggalic, but it was actually quite an endorsement of how prospective this particular project might be. Next slide, please. This is a snapshot of who Forest Gold is. After the placement, we have nearly 260 million shares on issue. Share price sitting around 25 cents. Market cap of $65 million. We have top 20 shareholders hold about 56% of the company. In the last raise, the top 20 shareholders participated to about $750,000 worth of the 6.9 million. The board of directors holds about 15%. Our top 5 shareholders, Rajawali Corporation, that's an Indonesian billionaires holding company. Alpha A4N, they're a vendor of one of our projects. They're an Australian company worth circa $1 billion. ERG Investments, as I mentioned to you before, ERG, 2 to 3 times the size of Newcrest. Eloquent Enterprise, they're a vendor of our Woyla project, another Indonesian billionaire. And then Belambi Enterprises, that's the holding company for Justin Werner, one of my co-founders and the managing director of Nickel Industries. Next slide, please. So our mission is to identify and pursue opportunities that create shareholder value, community value, by acquiring, exploring, evaluating, developing mineral projects in Australia and Indonesia. Our vision is to enhance living standards and deliver sustainable benefits in a responsible, safe and efficient manner. And our values that underlie all this is transparency, respect, greatness, stability and tenacity. Next slide, please. This is a snapshot of our projects. We've taken a portfolio approach of our projects. We have 3 in Queensland and 3 in Australia, all at slightly different stages of their life cycle. I'm only going to talk about the Woyla project and Tinggalic project today in detail. But as you can see, 5 of our 6 projects are very advanced, had drilling done on them. One is a very early stage project. One project, Wannagiri, it has a 1.15 million ounce gold JORC resource on it. It's 1 million ounces of gold and 190 million pounds of copper. So that's our most advanced project in terms of near-term development, but I won't talk about that, but I'll talk about our 2 most prospective projects, which is Woyla and Tinggalic. Next slide, please. The next slide, please. So Woyla, it's a 24,000 hectare contract of work, and the very first contract of work ever issued in Indonesia was to Freeport. There's only about 20 contracts of work left in Indonesia for minerals, and this is one of them. What that basically gives us is the sole right to explore, mine, process, refine, and sell any mineral deposits on our 24,000 hectare tenement. It was formerly owned by Barrick and then by Newcrest. Newcrest liked this project because they saw lots of similarities to their project in Indonesia called Gosowong. Gosowong was a 6 million ounce gold mine that returned grades of greater than 20 grams a tonne. Lots of characteristics in Woyla are very similar to the characteristics in Gosowong, and we are very encouraged with the work we've done that we see many more similarities than Newcrest first identified. It's about 13 kilometres of epithermal strike length. So epithermal veins, there's 12 different veins in 6 different prospect areas, totaling 13 kilometres of strike length. So it's a massive system. We've finished last year a 4,600 metre phase 1 drill program, and we're almost finished 10,000 metre phase 2 drill program. The gold grades and silver grades that we are getting from the drill tip are quite remarkable. We're consistently seeing high grade bonanza grade gold across the different prospect areas at source samples and grab samples. We're also seeing bonanza grade gold from the drill tip. So you can see on the right hand side there, 81 grams a tonne for gold in our Ekrinti prospect and 1,359 grams a tonne for silver in the Lower Umpai prospect. We're in the middle of doing a 400 line kilometre aeromag survey, so using a drone. This was previously had aeromag done by helicopter, so about sort of 600 feet by Barrick. We're doing a aeromag doing drones using 50 metre spacings for 400 line kilometres. The previous spacing was done at 200 metres. So we're going to get a really, really detailed image of what the magnetic signature is, what the topographical signature is, and what our drilled cores results are showing to target our next phase 3 program with much more particularity. Very excited with what we've seen in phase 1 and phase 2. The results indicate that the conditions necessary to develop a bonanza grade type mineralization in Woyla did in fact occur. Next slide, please. This very quickly just gives you an idea of what we're dealing with here. On the right-hand side is the outline of the tenement. All those little lines are the vein systems that we've mapped, which we think they host quartz vein systems, which we've gone and explored. So far, we've explored about 2.5 kilometres of the 13 kilometres of the vein systems. We've tested 6 of the 12 actual veins, and we've drilled in 3 of the 6 prospect areas. You can see that little postage stamp in the middle of our contracted work area. That's the size of the Gossalong tenement relative to ours. You get a feel for the scale of the prospectivity we have to deal with here at Weiland. Next slide, please. Really excited about what we saw in phase 1. We did 33 drill holes, of which 3 were discovery holes. 3 returned basically economically viable high-grade gold, bonanza-grade gold. In one of our tenements, we dropped in some holes in between those high-grade gold holes for phase 1 and phase 2. And so we've identified a 100-metre continuation of a high-grade zone in one of our prospect areas that remains open to the north. Next slide, please. But what was more encouraging in phase 1 was work within one of our prospect areas called Recrinti, where we saw 2 bonanza grade delivered from 2 holes. One had 2 metres at 30.9 grams a tonne, and the other had 30 metres at 2.8 grams a tonne for gold, but it peaked at half a metre at 78 grams a tonne for gold. That was hole 4. Now, hole 4, we decided to do a 50-metre step-out resource delineation program as part of phase 3. Next slide, please. Phase 2, sorry. So we've done 5,000 metres of resource delineation and 5,000 metres of scout drilling, where we're looking for the sweet spots where we think we can find more indications of high-grade gold. The resource delineation program is focused around that hole 4 in Recrinti. Our drill results in phase 2 have been really, really good. So far, 44 holes have been assayed, and nearly half of them, 21 holes, have intercepted good grade gold, 3.94 grams a tonne, with 10 of them being high-grade gold, 7.85 grams a tonne or more, with it included 4 holes at 17.5 grams a tonne. So we are consistently across all the holes we're doing indicating areas of high-grade gold, which is very encouraging. Next slide, please. What's also interesting about Weiland, we have a tenement life which goes for 30 years when we transition to operational stage, and then we can extend it by 2 10-year periods. We also have 3 areas for porphyry anomalies there. So we have 3 magnetic anomalies, which we've gone and done petrographic studies and channel sampling and seen copper in a 40-metre channel sample, but we've also seen alunite, peripherite, dicite, kaolinite, which is all indications that there's a porphyry system which is shedding into the epithermal system. So given that we have a 50-year life of tenement, that makes this a very prospective project. Next slide, please. I'll quickly run through Tinggalic, and this is where ERG want to get the right of first refusal. It's a 13,000 hectare mining license, so we could build a mine on this tomorrow. Where we could build a mine is a high-grade epithermal area. What we like about this is not where we can build a mine, but we like the porphyry areas that really haven't been properly explored. What we see is exciting about this is its similarities to some other major projects on the Sunda magmatic arc, particularly Tuju Bukit, which is also located in East Java. This project's in East Java. Next slide, please. We see similarities between Tinggalic and Tuju Bukit. Tuju Bukit has a similar sized volcanic centre cut by major structural lineaments. It has similar rock types hosting the Tuju Bukit and Batu Hijau projects that we've seen in Sumber Bening. You can see the magnetic signature on the right-hand side. That's a signature on the right. The far right is Tinggalic. On the far left is Tuju Bukit. For people who don't know Tuju Bukit, it is a massive project formerly held by Intrepid at one time. It's now held by Merdeka Copper Gold. It has 30 million ounces of gold and 19 billion pounds of copper as a resource estimate. So it is a massive project. So that is why people are looking at this Tinggalic project and saying, hey, this is something interesting. We've spent the last 2 years working up the social license required to take this project forward. We only got ownership of this in June. So we've spent it took us nearly 4 years to finalise the acquisition of this project. So very excited about being able to take this forward into further exploration and potentially in development and operation. Am I running out of time, Paul?
Yeah, I think we just close up. That'd be great, buddy.
Okay. Yep. So we just skip through a couple more slides. Skip through. Next one. Yeah, that'll do. That's fine.
I've got plenty of questions for you, Paul. Let's start. Obviously, the new strategic investor, ERG, bit of a game changer from where I see. In addition to its obvious financial support, what operational assistance can this new shareholder provide?
They made a decision when they came in that the $4 million wasn't where they were stopped. That was the start of their investment, wasn't the stop of their investment. So when they went through their investment committee, it wasn't like trying to put in $4 million and that's where we stopped. That they actually were looking for where this could become a much bigger play. They had a desire to go into Indonesia, and they hadn't yet done any projects in Indonesia. So they operate in Brazil, they operate in Africa, they operate in Eurasia. They saw the prospectivity of Indonesia. They saw our projects and they decided they want to come with us. So they operate a very large copper mine in Congo. So they have experience on what it's like dealing in these jurisdictions, taking opportunities and then transitioning them into development and operation. They have a very big geo team who have been made available to us now. So we're going to use that to peer review our drill modeling and our hypothetical model for our next set of drill targets. So we're out there field mapping our drill targets. Once we've finished our field mapping, we're going to bundle that all up and talk to ERG about them using their systems and software packages, which a company like us couldn't afford to run through it. So yeah, it's pretty impressive what we've now got access to.
Okay. And how important can ERG be to the company's Indonesian project and navigating Indonesian issues?
That's a good question. Kazakhstan and Indonesia have a very good relationship. Indonesia is developing a new capital city called Nusantara. The very first sister city for Nusantara is the capital of Kazakhstan, Astana. So there is a strong connection at a government level between Indonesia and Kazakhstan. Given that ERG is 40% owned by the government of Kazakhstan, I'm pretty comfortable this will be helpful.
And look, you've recently identified several drill targets at Sentul and Bularoto. What can shareholders and investors expect to see in news flow from here in the short term?
Yeah, so we've got a pretty comprehensive drill program based upon reprocessing magnetics and 3D inversion models. We're going out there and field validating those in Sentul Bularoto. We then want to field validate them in Singahan and in Sumber Bening. We're working with the government stakeholders to get our borrow use license to do drilling in Sumber Bening. We need to make a decision about whether we drill in Singahan, where we can actually drill now without any further government permits, or we wait and get our Sumber Bening borrow use license to drill. So that's actually something which we need to make a call on very shortly, whether we drill where we can drill now, and that's something we'll land on based on our field work, our reprocessing our data, and the input from ERG.
And just one from the floor here. They'll be looking at current cash burn is in excess of 10 million per annum. And this person's questioning, there could be a further capital raise further down the line. More importantly, what are the key milestones for the company to achieve over the next 6 months?
Yeah. So what I would like to see is some good results from the drill tip and Waller. We've hit lots and lots of indications of something special there. We haven't yet hit, other than maybe 2 or 3 times, big continuity of it. So I'm confident that when we finish our aeromag work, analyze the drill core samples, our phase 3 will give us the continuation that we're looking for. Once we've got that, then the hopes of this being the Gosawong, start to become real. In terms of Tinggalic, well, we expect to be drilling, and if we're drilling in Sumber Bening, we expect to see something interesting there. So that's really exciting there. Singahan has been drilled before. We know what we expect to see, and Bularoto has been drilled before. We know what we expect to see there. Sumber Bening is the one which everyone's really excited for us to get into. In terms of other value uplift, I'm hopeful that our environmental approval in the next 6 months for Wonogiri will come through. If that comes through, then it's a transition from Wonogiri's exploration permit to a mining license. So yeah, quite a few near-term value uplifts. We were trying to do a JORC resource, a maiden JORC resource on our phase 2 drilling. We haven't got all our results yet. Not sure where we're sitting at with that. I actually have a meeting today with the head geo to see what we're looking at with that. I think that would be less likely to be sitting in a maiden JORC at a phase 2, but it's still a possibility.
Well, really appreciate you presenting today, and we'd love to get you back in later in the year. Obviously, lots going on over the next few months. We wish you the best of luck.
Thanks very much, Paul.